Welcome in. I'm Kimberly. This is Pretty Over 50, where we talk everything beauty, fitness, and lifestyle for the over 50 woman. I am so happy to be back with Connie Rutledge from Over 50 Fat Blast. You can find her here on YouTube. This is part 3 of our 3-part detox series, and we're going to be talking about some really great points today that are easy to do, that you can implement into your life, that are going to make a whole big difference. Connie, how are you tonight?
I am wonderful. Thank you again so much for hosting. I love doing this with you, and I think it's been well received. I think
Yeah.
I think it's been a good thing.
Yeah, and the information has been so good and so easy to implement. So if you missed part 1 and part 2, or if you watched them and you were busy making dinner or driving somewhere and you didn't really get all the information, they're listed in the description box down below. So part 1 and part 2, good information. Tonight we're going to go over just a little recap of part 1 and part 2, and then into part 3. Excuse me. Plus, we'll be taking questions. So if you've got questions, put them over there in the chat. Connie, what do you have for us tonight, as far as recapping what we've talked about so far?
Well, I thought we would do a little recap about, just the easy ways to kind of get started and take some things into the day-to-day, and then finish up with simple daily practices, things that are my pet peeves that I see, when I'm out for a walk or when I'm just out and about, that I can nitpick and just offer better ways to not be inundated with environmental toxins, things that we just don't even think about. So that's kind of what I was thinking. And if you're ready, we can just kind of get.
Absolutely. Launch on in.
Okay, good. Well, I think the most important form of detox, and this might be a little surprising to some of us, we talked about this in session 1, was the fasting. The intermittent fasting, allowing the body to process and heal. Because when you are in the fasted state, and I'm not talking about, days and days and days, I'm talking about intermittent fasting, meaning 12 to 16 hours in a typical day that you're not eating. You're drinking water, you're getting your electrolytes, your body gets busy with cellular clean out. And the beautiful thing about that is it's free, ladies. We're always concerned about, well, that's expensive, but fasting is free. And it's one of the best and easiest and probably the most optimal way to clear out toxins in the body. And yeah, if you're getting really serious, a 36-hour or 72-hour fast would be a wonderful thing to kind of tee up maybe 2 to 3 times a year. I would love if I could figure out a way to do it seasonally. Every time the solstice changes, maybe do a 36 to 72-hour, detox fast. That's a simple way. It's not easy, but it's simple. You have to definitely kind of roll into that and get healthy in order to do that safely. I'll just definitely caveat that. And I think the reason Kimberly and I are doing this today and got started on this little detox series was her comment about when she travels, she fasts. And I knew that was a shock to a lot of you that weren't, good practicers of intermittent fasting, and you thought, there's no way I could ever do that, go a full day without eating. So that kind of gave me the idea, and we got to talking, and here we are today. So fasting. And I think that's a kind of a hot topic, controversial in some ways, but when we think about it, we're designed to fast. We were not designed to eat 3 meals a day or more.
Yeah. And another thing that I've learned, Connie, just as a result of working with you, is not only do I intermittent fast every day. And then, of course, when I travel, I just don't eat because, airport food is the danger zone of, food.
Talk about
places.
toxins.
Talk about toxins, exactly. And then I've also learned from you that I just don't snack anymore.
No.
You know, that kind of thing where you're whipping through the kitchen and you grab a couple of whatevers and stick it in your mouth. I just don't do that anymore. And what a difference that makes. And it's such a habit change. And I think that we eat so often just out of habit or just a little something, something. And I don't snack anymore. And that's one thing that people who really are honing in on a diet and their intermittent fasting, we just don't snack. And I think that that's a cool improvement to a lifestyle.
It's a wonderful way to heal because every time you put food in your mouth, your body produces insulin. And most people that carry extra weight are definitely, have problems with insulin sensitivity. We don't have a smooth glucose blood sugar regulator anymore. And you can heal that by exactly what you're talking about. Intermittent fasting, eat, stop eating, and then eat again, and then stop eating. And whether that's 2 to 3 times a day while you're kind of practicing, most of my healthy clients eat twice a day. And you get all your nutrients in, and then your body gets to process. And once that's happening, the cellular clean out is so much better. I mean, you just have more bandwidth to really do the things we're designed to do because our bodies are designed. We don't need detox programs if we're just following the rules for healthy living. That said, it's not easy, and a lot of us have gotten in the weeds, and so that's why we're talking today, to be able to offer easy ways to, to do what we're intending, that cleanup process.
Yeah. Perfect.
Okay, so we have the fasting as number one. Obviously, then we need to figure out, what we're eating, and we need to elicit, clean food, real food. I advocate eating animals, healthy animals, and less processed foods like grains. A healthy diet for a menopausal woman, for the most part, is a low carb, higher protein, kind of moderate fat composition, if you will. We stick to real foods like, meats, seafood, poultry, eggs, some dairy, if you can tolerate it, if you're healthy enough to tolerate it. Vegetables and fruits, and I like them in that order, vegetables and fruits, because fruits have higher carbohydrates. And then lesser grains. And, grains are kind of like a caution food because they're processed. Unless you're eating, like wild rice, or brown rice is not processed necessarily, but it is high starch. And so again, that needs to be a caution food because it is higher in carbohydrates, i.e. it metabolizes into glucose. And glucose is definitely something we need to be wary of, especially if we're looking for detox. Another caveat, and I'm going to put this right in, we didn't talk about this, but juice fasts are not detoxes. So how many of us back in the day did I remember one diet was a fruit diet where you ate, all the watermelon you wanted one day, and then the next day was pineapple. Oh my gosh, what a disaster. Oh Lord, the things that we were told, right? But juice fasts are not good ways to get the body detoxing because of all the sugar. If you want to do a mono food fast because you just aren't healthy enough or can't seem to get into that whole fasting situation, you could do a mono fast with eggs, where you eat nothing but eggs for 24 hours, maybe 2 meals with 4 eggs each, or a hamburger patty, or, a ribeye steak, or a piece of chicken. That said, those things will then get you, closer to doing the intermittent fast, and you'll feel better. And then you'll definitely be able to detox a little smoother. All right. So back to eating real food, organic, because the pesticides and the glyphosate and all those things that are, put on our foods are there and they stay in our body. And so we definitely are wanting to be aware of that fact and, plan accordingly. Okay.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit about binders, which are like activated charcoal, diatomaceous earth, clay, and zeolite to take orally to mop up some toxins that you might be expelling, or they're there. As the body is processing and doing all the things, we detox out of our skin, we detox out of our breath, we detox out of our bowels and urine. So you want to, you could take, a couple capsules of a quote unquote binder on an empty stomach once or twice a day, and do a 6-week process where you're, see what happens. See if you notice anything improving. Maybe you've got some skin issues. Maybe you've got some gut issues. Maybe you're constipated or, having diarrhea. Those are all very, very, I would say, typical responses to a body that is overloaded with toxins. Obviously, your medications need to be, appropriate, but if you can get better off, more healthy with a nice gentle detox and a better lifestyle practice, you could get off your medications, and those are going to really give the liver a lot more bandwidth. And then inflammation, avoiding inflammatory foods, which is, processed foods, alcohol, the things that, your body is sensitive to, and we're all unique in that fact. That's something that, we want to reduce inflammation and be mindful to just be aware. Oh, and exercise. That was another big one. We need to move our bodies. That's a way to, get the lymph going, get the body's detox processes moving, helping the liver with insulin and stored sugar and all of that. But it also helps us sweat and builds muscle for all kinds of good things. So I think those are the key things that we talked about in the 2 episodes that we did.
Yeah, and every single one of those, Connie, are easy to do.
They are.
They're easy to do, and implementing one at a time
100%.
is super easy. Like, this week I'm gonna start doing this. This week I'm gonna start doing this, and before you know it. I was watching, Barbara Neal.
Wonderful.
She's this great holistic physician,
Yeah.
and she talked about doing your rebounder just for 1 minute
Yeah.
in the morning, because that's gonna kickstart your lymph system. Not that that's all you're going to do for the day, but now I'm doing that first
Good.
thing in the morning, just that
Yes.
little 1 minute to get things going.
Yeah. Oh, and deep breathing exercises too. You can do
Oh.
a breath work video, 10 minutes. I've been doing that with my red light in the morning, sitting upright.
Oh,
It
that's such a
is
good idea.
it is really nice. Yeah. So,
Okay. Thank
yeah.
you for that recap.
Okay. So should we move on to some daily practices? I've
Yes.
got a list here that I, have been writing down as I, think of different things or when they come to mind. So again, like you said, the easy, low hanging fruit that, gosh, it just is, we should know this, or we should be doing this, but, and when you're reminded, I know sometimes it takes me, I'll see something, I'll think, oh yeah, I used to do that, or I need to get back to that. But I was working with a client, maybe it was last week, and I was kind of blown away at how much restaurant food was consumed with her life. She was a working woman still, and I think she lived with her husband, yet would drive to the drive-through, mostly Starbucks, and have a latte and maybe a breakfast sandwich. And I just was blown away at most people who drive away from or walk away from the Starbucks window have a boatload of toxins just in that little cup. First of all, it's not only the coffee that's got pesticides on it, it's, what they're putting in it, whether it's, a non-organic milk or a oat milk, God forbid, or
that stuff is so bad.
it's so full of garbage. And then the sugars that they pump into it. I mean, not only was it high carb, I think it was like 47 carbohydrates for a regular cup. It just had a bunch of garbage. And then a lot of times that black lid that sits on that you sip through, no, do not do that. It is hot liquid. Actually, it's, probably the cup too. I don't want to be a total wet blanket, but on occasion, that's okay. But every single day is detrimental on your liver. Your skin's going to look better if you stop that. You're going to have more energy. You're going to have more brain food. And so I really feel like, if you're going to do that on a daily basis, take your own cup and never drink out of that toxic plastic sipper thing.
Or better yet, just brew up some organic coffee at home.
Exactly. Please
with
do
good water. Use good water.
Yes, good water. Exactly. Oh yeah, the filtered water. We talked about that too.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something, never drink hot liquids out of those cups. If you do, just think about it, please.
Yeah. And what I want to point out here is over the course of our lifetimes, things weren't like this when you and I were kids. And most of the people that are watching, it wasn't like this. But it's like one little plastic container here and one little ingredient here. And before you know it, we're decades down the road, and everywhere we look, it's a toxic mess.
Yeah.
And all the things that we just take for granted as living a good life, like Starbucks, not only is that what she ordered completely full of toxins, but the calorie count in that is probably close to your daily.
It's astounding.
Yeah.
And I'm not picking on her by any means.
We're culturalized to think this is okay or we deserve it.
I know it. Exactly. And you don't deserve to feel like crap.
Yeah. Yeah. And if your body is so busy fighting off all these poisons you're putting in your eating and drinking, it doesn't have the bandwidth to heal your skin or to build muscle or to help you feel better. I mean, it's exhausted from what we're doing to ourselves.
It can't not be. And, it's a cry for help when you start getting swollen and you start putting on weight. Your body is storing those toxins in fat cells and in your joints. No wonder you're hurting. And there's a clue. Your body's giving you information every minute, every day. And if you just listen, you can definitely turn the Queen Mary around and get back to healthy. I see it. And don't expect it to happen tomorrow. It's something that you have to practice and do for, like I said to Kimberly, give it a year. And you don't have to be perfect at it. But when we're just unconsciously surviving, that's no way to live. Yeah. Okay. So we've bashed on the restaurant. The restaurant, the seamless, endless, ease of that. Not only, it's going to hit your pocketbook. I mean, think about it. If you're in a place that you're not comfortable in and your body has, 20 to 80 extra pounds hanging out and you're wondering, how am I ever going to get out of this? Then I just would offer, you can cook at home, schedule a jumpstart with me. We can talk all things, let's get you going on detox so that you can do this. And it's not that this is a 6-week program, it's the rest of your life. And I just want to encourage you and motivate you and offer, a springboard into this detox forevermore, really.
Yeah. And it's kind of one of those things is like you can't go back. Once you understand and once you feel how good it feels. I heard this thing and it cracked me up, Connie, and you guys will get it too. Someone said, if you get out of bed and you feel creaky or your joints hurt, you're over 50. And I'm like, I'm almost 70. Nothing hurts.
I agree.
Nothing hurts.
I'm 63 and I feel amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. So you don't have to fall into that trap of, oh, now I'm old and my body hurts. My body does not hurt. And it's cleaning out the toxins.
Well, and it takes effort and it takes work, and it's not it's just rinse or lather, rinse, repeat. Once you kind of get it, and whether you need to make a list, whether you need to just start with one thing and then add another thing, which you should if you're not, if you're not aware or you're not doing these things. But those things are you ease into it. And once you start feeling better, that inflammation leaves your body and, you feel like, oh, I'm down a pant size. You don't go back. No. So
yeah,
you can do this, girls.
Yes.
Okay, the next thing that is a pet peeve of mine, and I just, cringe, is when I'm out for a walk and I'm in a neighborhood and I smell dryer sheets. Oh my gosh. The toxins left on your clothes that you wear all night, all day, you're in your sheets, that just makes my skin crawl. And switch to a non-toxic laundry detergent. You can look. Yeah, there's better ones than others, and I'm not going to, push a brand. But please do not, use your dollars to buy toxic laundry products or toxic cleansers. Those things we're doing to better the situation, and it just is compounding the toxic load in our poor bodies. So those are things that I just think. And I've said, to friends, I can smell that sweatshirt of yours. What are you putting in your, the Gain? What are those? Even like fabric softener. That stuff is horrible. Please, it's not necessary. So think about it. The plugins that people use to scent their homes, especially if you have animals. My Lord, it's toxic for us, but those poor animals are, it's a game changer once you understand. The plugins in the car, no, those are endocrine disruptors. They're disrupting your endocrine system, and that endocrine system rules your, the processes of your hormones, your metabolism. All of those things are so important to just clean out. Yeah. And if you've got one or two of those, we're moving into the holidays, all those scented candles, please use essential oils, natural products. They're getting better, and the market's getting, better with some nice non-toxic, beautiful candles and things like that. Just, don't go down the aisle at Bonds and, or Target and throw it in the cart. Do not. It's horrible.
And, I just want to stop for a minute here and add all these things up to make the point. So you get up in the morning and you put on clothes that you've washed in toxic filled detergent and then thrown them in the dryer with a dryer sheet. So you're walking around. This stuff is not only getting into your skin, but you're smelling it all day long. And then you go to Starbucks and you get your 800 calorie drink and your 400 calorie little breakfast sandwich filled with toxins. And then you get in your car and you've got one of those little air fresheners hanging in the car. It just adds up to the fact that your body cannot handle it anymore.
We're at a place we've never been before.
Yeah.
And no wonder we have so many sick, unhealthy people relying on, something outside of themselves the doctor to make them better.
Yeah.
We have agency. We have the ability to make it happen today.
Yeah. And the sad thing for me is that most of these things that we do, because humans are very easy to influence. They're
Yeah.
easily influenced.
Yes.
Most of these things that, I just listed are sold to us and marketed to us as, "Oh, you deserve it. Oh, this is gonna make your life better. Oh, isn't this wonderful? Don't you want this?" And what they're doing is they're making profits for corporations. They're damaging your health
Right.
and making a whole lot of very rich people richer.
Well, you wonder if it's all by design.
Well,
That said, we won't go there.
we all know that I think it is.
And I can't argue with you. So
Yeah.
yeah, we're definitely, along the same wavelength there. But when we're just, out of convenience, uh, suggestible and thinking, oh, I'll just try it. And then, yeah, there's a dopamine hit with heading to the store and picking out something that's gonna, make it fun for 10 minutes. But when you just think about the reality of, oh, I just spent, $6 on that little plug-in, or I don't know how much they cost. That said, it's disrupting, doing thousands of dollars of damage to your
Yeah.
body.
Yeah. So sad. And yet we're told that, we need it to live
Right.
a
Well,
happy life, or you deserve this, or this will
yeah.
make your life better. And it doesn't. It just,
And even perfume. Yeah, I love to smell pretty, but the days of, Chanel on my wrists and on my those little points, if I still have those beautiful bottles on my, in it, displayed, because they are beautiful, they smell wonderful. But if there is a time that I want to, smell pretty for a party or something, I'll spray it in the room, and I'll, kind of get my skin away from it, and I'll walk through it, and it might kind of settle on my clothing, but please don't put it on your body anymore.
oh my gosh, when I think of all the years that I was just like, oh,
Oh,
oh.
bathed in it. Maybe it wasn't so bad back then, who knows? But it wasn't good.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's just something that I think about these days as I'm optimizing, as I'm making sure that my, golden years are going to be healthy and happy. And I want to obviously share that with everyone else. Those are the things on my list that were, the big standouts, to make sure we are maybe just aware.
Yeah. And I think the awareness is the important part, at least for me, Connie, because we are bombarded
Yeah.
daily, all day long. Now, I don't watch TV. I don't own a TV. I haven't watched TV for 25 years. I don't know what's on the TV now, but I would imagine it's commercial after commercial after commercial telling you need something that is ultimately not good for your health.
And I've always said, if you see it advertised on TV, don't eat it.
Yeah, if a food has a commercial, you don't
Don't
want it.
eat it. Yeah.
I saw someone I was listening to some gal, she's a physician, but she's really like a holistic,
Right.
uh, doctor now, and
Mhm.
she said, "If it's got a label, it's no longer food."
Exactly. It's true.
She
You're
said, "An apple does not have a label. A steak does not, it doesn't have an ingredients list,"
Yeah.
you know?
And our toxic burden, a lot of us are up to here if we
Yeah.
haven't done the work and haven't been aware and haven't, had the ability to, or the information to understand things that, that yeah, if we've been influenced in a way that we're not happy with, then we can make changes that will easily and comfortably and without, great expense. I mean, all those things that we talked about were, nothing was unattainable in my opinion.
Yeah, that's true. I wanna tell you a story. I have a friend who, kind of went down the high protein, eating a lot of red meat,
Uh-huh.
cleaning up their diet, and fell away from it.
Okay.
And she said to me, "I'm going to start eating much less meat and eating vegetables and that sort of," which I know is she's going to go straight for the carbs and the bread
Well
and
done
that
it.
sort of thing. And in my mind, I thought, well, you're going to put on weight and you're going to get depressed. And
Yes.
guess what? She
Oh,
put on weight and she's depressed.
yeah.
And the disconnect between the change in diet and now the depression and the larger size pants,
Yeah.
she's not seeing it. But I can guarantee you, ladies, if once you get on a high protein, good quality protein, grass-fed, grass-finished beef, beautiful eggs, pasture-raised chickens, eggs, beautiful eggs, that
Mhm.
sort of thing. The difference in your body and how you feel and your happiness level, particularly if you start lifting weights,
Yes.
adding some muscle mass, it's a completely different thing. And then when you look back and think, okay, I want to bring this up. I'm going on a tangent here. Have you heard of the book, Connie, Fiat Food?
I have not.
Okay. I'm gonna blow your mind here, Connie, you and everyone else,
Okay.
because I just saw a discussion with the author of Fiat Food. Now, what does fiat mean? Fiat is we have fiat money in the US. In other words, it is money not backed by anything. And what happens when you have a fiat money system is that your dollar gets degraded over time.
Sure.
It's just the way that a monetary system works.
Okay.
Well, what this author figured out, and you're going to love this, what I pointed out, is that they knew, in other words, those at the Federal Reserve and those who manage our monetary system, they knew that our dollar was going to be degraded over time.
Okay.
And what they wanted to hide that. And that's when the big push for these low cost, high carb foods started.
Okay.
And there is the Fiat Food, which is the name of the book. And there was a huge public promotion that, oh, you're going to eat meat and it's bad for your heart. And look at all these grains, it's good fiber and, this sort of thing. So, an entire industry of processed foods using very, very low cost ingredients like corn and wheat was created because it was cheap. And the wives that would go to the grocery store and start buying all these processed foods were being able to pick them up for a lower cost than the good quality foods. And so there we have Fiat Food, a whole industry created that ultimately has made us fat and sick and depressed.
Exactly.
Yeah. So now you probably wanna go get the book.
Yeah. Can't wait.
But when you think about it, it's a very clever way
Yeah.
to market
Mhm.
a diet that's very cheap, but ultimately not good for us. So if we look at the food pyramid right now. Fruit Loops are higher on the list than
Yeah.
eggs. It's ridiculous. So
Well,
there definitely is a push towards a diet that's good for making money for some people, but not good for our health.
by design, unfortunately. And
Mhm.
we're smart enough to catch on and be aware so that we can have agency and make that decision for ourselves.
Yeah.
And when you look at, how many times have you heard, if grandma didn't eat it, you shouldn't eat it either. And there's a reason for that. And it's not that, you can't splurge, quote unquote splurge, which sounds awful, splurge on something that's going to poison you. That said, it happens. But when we're doing it right and back to basics and, getting back to the origins of how we're designed, that's important. you know
Mhm. Yeah.
so we're kind of staring down the barrel of critical mass. That said, I don't think we're going to stop sitting in front of our computers and, having that aspect of that energy and the blue light and all that. So we need to kind of have a trade-off and have a happy medium so that there's balance. Because like you said, your friend who decided, whatever, whether it was a suggestion that meat was bad, or she didn't feel well because she ate the way she did. And there's a lot of reasons, because as we start to get less and less healthy and the aging process continues, our ability to digest is definitely downgraded.
Yeah.
So we just need to be aware, just like we need to take our vitamins and our electrolytes because the food no longer provides that in the same amount now. We might need to do something like a digestive enzyme to be able to handle the breakdown of that heavier, acidic food that's meat. It doesn't acidify your body necessarily, but yes, your stomach needs to be high acid. And I mean, I could go on for days about, low stomach acid and what the industry has done with not the Ozempic, but the omeprazole, the acid blockers that so many people have been prescribed and just stay on because the doctor never said, it's a 2-week medication. You shouldn't be on it for more than 2 weeks. And I'm talking about if you go in for indigestion or a stomach ache, or, you're having a hiatal hernia or something that, is quite common these days with the state of how we eat. The meat is vilified, and that's ridiculous because the meat is not going to ferment like the processed breads and the foods that are processed, because those are fermentable. They have a lot of fiber, a lot of sugar or fake sugar, and they're toxic in the body. So it's quite common to be prescribed something to block the acid because it's, they think there is too much acid in the stomach. And that's not my reality. It's too little, so that meal isn't being digested. So just a simple digestive enzyme, or apple cider vinegar, or something like Swedish bitters. I mean, there are really easy ways to try, eat slower. Don't eat when you're stressed out. Take your time, let your body receive nutrients in a parasympathetic dominant state versus a fight or flight state. So those are just little things that I'm off on a tangent now.
Yeah. Well, you know what? The one thing that I've noticed, one of the big changes in my health, I always had issues with low blood sugar.
Yes.
I'm the kind of person that if you gave me a cup of coffee and a donut, I would be in the corner shaking and sweating in 20 minutes. I mean, it was a disaster for me, and I didn't understand what was going on.
Yeah.
Now that I eat mostly proteins, or my diet is mostly proteins, I eat a little bit of fruit, a little bit of vegetables.
Right.
Every now and then I'll have bread, but it's not often.
Right.
My blood sugar is so stable. It is just lovely. I don't get the shakes, but I'll tell you what, if I eat something now, like a little treat or something, I can feel it.
Yeah.
Because you become so attuned to having really good blood sugar levels, really stable levels, that it'll send you running back,
That's true. It's like, I'm not going to do that for a long time.
Yeah, and I've learned if I'm gonna have a treat, it's gonna be on top of a protein.
It better be, because
Yeah.
why make yourself sick? And
Mhm.
and it's nice to have a treat once in a while.
Yeah.
I feel also that when you are, doing the quote unquote treat, day in and day out, well, that's a recipe for disaster. And it's easy to get in that habit. I think, once you kind of can step away from that practice and even challenge yourself, can I go 24 hours? eating only real food. Give yourself that challenge and see what happens. Make sure you're getting plenty of protein. It doesn't matter to me, I just want something clean or clean-ish, but and eat enough. No starving here. We're fasting, and that's not starving. That's fasting, because we're going to be eating. And that's going to tee up this nice level metabolism that is, you're not crazy. All of a sudden you have clear, clean thoughts that, you can actually get to the kitchen and provide for yourself. Maybe even plan ahead a little bit. Once you kind of get past that, and it might be bumpy those 3 days while you're kind of, veering, and getting that Queen Mary turned around, but it's doable.
Yeah, it is, and it's worth it. It's worth it. And I think the overarching for me, the overarching theme is that what we're being told and sold out there isn't good for us. So we have to take charge and take it back. And I think there is a movement in the country. People are kind of waking up about, we look around, everybody's sick and fat and feels terrible.
Yeah.
So things definitely need to change. So let's break it back down to those who just are looking at a new lifestyle. Like, give us 3 easy to do things. I know, I've been working with Connie, as she's been my nutritionist for almost 2 years now, and we didn't meet until a year or so into our journey. It's all been online. It's easy to do. So, you don't need to find someone in your area. You can definitely work with someone online.
Definitely.
So,
Yeah.
if someone's venturing out into this, where do they start? What are 3 things that, you would say are easy entries into changing things?
The first thing would be, make sure you eat a protein-rich diet and avoid the fluff. Avoid the processed carbohydrates, the things that you would purchase in a package. You can bake a couple potatoes ahead. Sweet potatoes, regular potatoes, it doesn't matter to me. You can cook up some, bake a chicken and, have a vegetable on the side with butter and even sour cream on that potato if you want a baked potato, and eat real food. Okay, that's the most important thing to set you up for success, so that you can then go without food for 4 hours or so, or in the daytime. And I'm talking about eating real food. That first meal of the day would be, if it is a breakfast type food, maybe you're going to scramble a couple of eggs. You have some, a couple links of a nice quality sausage or bacon, and maybe a couple blueberries. If you need more starch in the morning because you're, a heavy exerciser, or you just are metabolically less stable, you can have a half a piece of toast with butter on it. So go ahead and eat well. And then stop eating. Stop eating for, if you've had a meal with 30 to 40 grams of protein in that meal, you should be comfortably fasting for 4 hours. And that gives you such freedom, because you're not going to think about food. If you think about food, in my opinion, then you talk to yourself. It's like, you know what? Look at the clock. It's almost 3 o'clock. I ate at 11. I'm starting to get a little hungry. It's like, okay, noted. Get some water. You can have a cup of tea. You can have a green tea, but you'll probably eat in another hour, hour and a half. So get busy. If you haven't exercised by this time, take a walk. Those things are going to help your mindset. They're going to help your body start the process of, all right, I've got fuel, and now I'm going to use fuel. And in the time that you're fasting, your toxins are being processed alongside that food.
Yeah.
Okay. So those are 2. So eat and then fast. And the third would be exercise. Get moving. Move your body. We're designed to move. We're not designed to sit on the couch or in front of the computer for 10 hours a day. I mean, and as we get older, it becomes easier to sit. I've noticed it in myself at 60.
I'm a world-class sitter. I could be in the Olympics of
And
sitting.
I'm an athlete, and I have been active my whole life. And I notice that, you know what, there are some days that I think, oh my goodness, get up. Because I can work at my computer for, you know, a long, you know, it's enthralling what I do. I love what I do. But when I mean, I'm surprised sometimes. So
Yeah. I've started doing this little tricky thing because a lot of what I do is a sitting
yes.
activity. It's just, the hobbies that I have are sitting
Oh,
activities.
sure. Right.
But I've started this little thing, I've got a rebounder and I'll do my little 10 minutes, but I go on it for a minute a number of times during the day. Like I'll just go bounce for a minute and I'll do that 10 or 15 times during the day when I'm shifting tasks or if I've been sitting too long or I want to think something through. I'll just go do that. And boy, if you got a rebounder, try that. That's so stinking handy.
I'll do that on my my medicine, my big ball, that, you know, my exercise
Oh.
ball. I'll just bounce.
Oh, you'll just bounce.
Yeah,
That's a good
bounce.
idea.
But you know what we're doing with that is we're moving lymph, we're
Mhm.
moving toxins, we're breathing heavier. So, and we're just getting the blood moving, and all of that is natural detoxification.
Mhm.
That's, I mean, we don't need yeah, it's nice to have, you know, other apparatus and other things that we, you know, can pay for, but these things are inexpensive, relatively free.
Yeah.
You just got to do them.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Perfect.
Mhm.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
Well, this has been such a lovely series, Connie. Thank you so much for
it's
doing this with me. I just am so passionate about growing older in a healthy way and not feeling old. I don't feel old. I
I
don't
don't
think you do
feel
either.
no, and I don't want to feel old. And I think it's a mindset. We talked about that, I think, in maybe the first series, this part one, that mindset of, you know, just do it and don't get in your way. And when it gets a little bit, you know, maybe you're deciding it doesn't matter, you know, change your mind and you know, just get on with it,
Yeah.
because why not? You deserve to feel good.
Yeah, and when it's like I did a little video on this a while ago. It's like when I think about it, I could be here another 25, 30 years.
Of
That
course.
that's like imagine me being 38. I
Exactly.
mean, that's the amount of time. It's like, "Oh my gosh, I don't wanna be bored. I wanna be able to do all kinds of stuff." So, now's the time to really get things going, and I have. So, I
And you
appreciate
have,
you.
and I know that many of your audience, you know, members have as well, and they, I think we get to take pride in that,
Mhm.
and appreciate that it's not for nothing. I mean, we are doing it because we should, and we need to be strategic in how we live our lives so that we can be vital. We can, you know, just not go down in flames and be sad and sick and depressed.
Yeah, yeah.
What's the point?
Yeah, I don't wanna end up
We won't.
doing that. Yeah, we won't. We won't.
We'll just champion the fact that we're, you know, it's going to be this way, and we're
Mhm.
going to continue on, and we're going to be, you know, hopefully our food supply gets better and better in the future. I'm hopeful that things might turn around in some small fashion or a massive fashion. We'll see, but why not take control of
Yeah.
your destiny? Yeah.
Mhm. Wonderful. Well, Connie, thank you so much for this. I appreciate it. And again, everyone, Connie's information's down below. If you just need a little, she does a Kickstart program, which is really wonderful and great information over on her YouTube channel. That's listed down below as well. If you missed part one and part two, it's really worth it. Very actionable, easy to implement steps that'll get you a whole long way into feeling better, getting more energy, having your blood sugar under control and just starting to turn the ship around so that you can wake up in the morning and feel excited and energetic for the day.
Do it.
All
Thank
right,
you.
Connie, thank you so much. And thank you everyone for watching.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll see you
All
next time.
right. We'll see you next time, everyone. Bye now.
Bye.